Okay, here's the project on this video. This is a large jar from my from my website, and this was so much fun. I just can't even begin to tell you. All right, let's get started. All right, we're going to get started prepping this surface. I'm going to dampen a foam roller just slightly with some water and take it to a paper towel and get the excess water off of it. You want it to be damp, not wet. This roller is just about worn out because it should not dimple like that. It should spring right back. So I'll probably have to throw this one away when we're done here. So we're going to load up with some buttermilk. That's what we're going to base this in. And we're just going to go ahead and cover the lid. We're going to paint the lid a different color later, but this will just make it easier if we can just base coat the whole thing. And if you can hear that knocking, please excuse that. My husband is remodeling our bathroom downstairs, so might be a lot of pounding going on. Alright, this is just a quick, easy way to get your surface base coated. You can get nice, smooth, even coats. I'm just giving less pressure on the roller. Okay, so that's one coat. I'm going to let it dry. I'm going to apply a second coat, and then we're going to come back and do some fun stuff to the background. Okay, my base coat is dry on here. So we are going to work a little bit on the background. Now on this project I'm going to use a couple of my new stencils. The first one we're going to use is my new honeycomb stencil. Get it here. So this is how my stencils come. I chose to use the clear stencil sheets because I would have so much trouble with the more white stencils, being able to see what was behind it and where I wanted to put something if I was putting it on top of something I had already painted, or forgot to put it in my background and wanted to put it on there without getting it on something that I had painted. I love the other kind, they're great, but for me personally, I decided that my stencils, I would make a clear stencil so that you could see exactly where it is going on your surface. Now, I always cut a test stencil out of paper before I send it on to be, cut for selling. And a lot of times I will just use this one to apply what I need to, but I'm going to use my regular stencil. Now, honeycomb stencils usually come like this, and these are great stencils. If you have them, use them. They work just fine. But I wanted my stencil to be a little more whimsical, so I chose to make random sizes, and they're stretched a little bit longer this way. You could turn the stencil this way and have them a little bit more on the fat side. So I just wanted to make it a little more fun. You could play around with it and create something a little bit different instead of just the standard everything's the same size kind of stencil. So, and to me, this, even though this is a honeycomb shape, kind of looks like chicken wire. So this one could be used for chicken wire, but this one is for our honeycomb. So I'm going to use my regular stencil, and on the background we're going to have probably some words up here, and then our main design in the center, and some words down here, and some other things going on. So I'm going to apply, I want a little bit of dimension down in here, so I'm going to use some texture stucco. You can use whatever kind of dimensional product that you have, and this feels like it's getting dry. I haven't used it for a while, so I'm going to pull some out. I'm going to spritz it with just a little bit of water and work that water in there. Don't think because it's getting dry that your product is completely non-usable, because that's not true. Just add a little bit of water in there, work it in. It's not any different than the stucco if you've done any house repairs. You can add a little bit of water. A lot of times I will take a damp paper towel and lay it in the top of my stucco container and then put a piece of plastic wrap on top of that paper towel so that all the moisture stays into the container. So I'm going to tape my stencil down because I don't want it moving. And I've decided to go the long way with my pattern because I want it to be a little more whimsical, but like I said, you can turn it this way and get a little bit fatter ones. So I'm just going to lay it on here. Make sure it's somewhat straight here. And I'm just going to put a little piece of tape up here. Okay, so I'm just going to scoop up a little bit of this on my knife and then select where I want to put some texture on here. You want to keep your stencil from lifting up. You want to try and lay your blade. Don't have it like this. Don't have it directly like this. You want to add a little bit of an angle to where it's just gliding across the place on the stencil. Some of these I'm going to have to lay a little bit flat. I don't think I'm picking up enough texture stucco here. So I don't want to fill it completely. I just want a few random ones, and we'll probably have part of our design going over this when it's all said and done, and that's perfectly fine. You can have part of a stencil like I did there. Let me see if I can zoom you in because we're getting a little bit of a glare. I just put some stucco in part of that stencil, so you can do that as well. Just get a little bit of it, and that's going to create a little bit different kind of design there. So I think I'll go and do that to a few. Not completely fill them, just add a little bit in there. I'm going to have a word across here, main design here. So this may be about all I want to do here. Okay, so when you're done applying stucco wherever you would like it to be, we are just going to lift our stencil straight up and see all of our places. Let me hold this up so you can see it. See all of our places where we left the stucco behind. Okay, so we've got to let that dry completely, and then we're going to come in and start creating more in the background. So while that is drying, we're going to take our stencil to our water and clean it immediately, because we don't want the stucco to dry on here. You can get it off after it dries, but it's a little bit more difficult. So you're going to take it to your sink, and with some warm water, you're going to take a soft toothbrush and some warm water and just very gently, in circular motion around the places where you put stucco, just go and clean it. And that gives this time to dry while you're cleaning this, and then you can gather up your paints and get ready to paint. Okay, let me zoom you in here just a scooch. Okay, I put a coat of the base color on top after my stucco stuff dried. And if you feel like you've got some little bit of raised spots before you paint it, you can lightly sand that down a little bit. Okay, we're going to work on adding some color in here, and we're going to work with some media paints. So I've got carbon black, burnt umber. This is transparent yellow iron oxide, dairy light yellow, and yellow green light here. And they just come in these little bottles like this, and they are like pure pigment. They are just the brightest, greatest color. You can use them for glazing, you can use them for painting, but I like to use them in my background sometimes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a large old brush and just add some water on here. And then I'm just going to pick up a paint, whatever color I want. And see how the water is dispersing that into the background? I'll pick up a little bit of yellow in here. And I probably ought to get some white out. I kind of want this to look like honey back here in the jar. Another way that you can disperse your paint is by adding, just spritzing it with water and then letting the, almost like watercolor. I mean, you can use these as watercolor. It's just a very fun, awesome product, and I hope that you will give them a try. They're very fun to work with. So I put a bunch up there, and I want to disperse it a little bit more. Up there on the top of the bottle, it's going to be a different color, so we're not going to worry about that. So I've got a little bit of green here. I'm not sure I'm going to like some green in here, but I might add just some little touches in the background. And then this yellow iron oxide, I have never used this color. So I'm going to get a little bit of it and get a little bit more water on my brush here. And let's see if it's more of a gold color, almost like yellow ochre. So, alright, one more spritzing, disperse a little bit, get a little bit, oh. I got a lot of water on there now, so I'm either going to have to add some paint or let it dry. So I'm going to add a little bit more of this brown in here. Alright, that's a lot of water on my surface, so I have to let this completely dry. And then when it dries, we're going to come and start building on top of it. Now, once it dries, if you feel like it needs more color on top of it, because seriously, I feel like it could use more yellow in it, but you know, because it's honey in the jar. So you know, you can come back in and add more colors into it. So don't feel like you're limited by just the one little coat of paint in there. Okay, so I'm going to get this dry and then we'll come back and see how it looks. Alright, I've got this dry. It's really cool looking. I had a little bit of water run here, but I'm not going to worry about it. I think that's just going to add to the character in the background. So I'm going to lay my stencil back over it, and I'm going to get a makeup sponge. And makeup sponges are not very absorbent, so you want to try and work the paint on the sponge a little bit by tapping it on your palette so that you don't get too much. So I'll show you here. So I picked up some paint, and I don't know how well you can see. Let me zoom in here. That's pretty thick on the end of that. So we don't want it to be like that because it will definitely bleed underneath. So we want to tap it onto our palette to kind of get it dispersed a little bit on the sponge right there. And I think on the other side I'm going to pick up some antique gold and do the same. Kind of bring those two together. A little bit more of the brown. I don't know if that antique gold's going to show up very well. Okay, so we can just lay this on here wherever we want, and we just want some subtle stuff in the background. Nothing real big, and I think that brown might be just a little bit too dark. So just some random places. Don't the ones that we did with the texture stuff, we could definitely do them. I think that would help. And just be kind of subtle and random stuff going on here. So you see, I haven't loaded my sponge because I still got enough on there to do. Oh, let me wide angle you back out here. You'd probably like to see the whole thing, wouldn't you? I got enough on there to you know, work quite a few areas. I think I'll work all three of these where that kind of ran right there. Now it's time to pick up a little bit more. And when you pick up more, kind of start back with a little bit of gentle pressure. Don't get too carried away. So that gives us a nice oops, wrong way. Nice little subtle honeycomb kind of stuff going on in the background. So now for your sponge, you just want to lay it somewhere flat like that and let the paint dry on the end of it, and then take your scissors. I'll do it while it's wet here. And just take your scissors and cut the end of it off. And then you've got a brand new end to it. You're ready to go. Okay, so that again was just some burnt umber and just a very small amount of antique gold tapped on there. Alright, let's get back at this project. I tell you what, I just feel like it's taken me forever to get this project done. You know, life keeps interrupting. How dare it? I should just be able to just paint all the time, right? Okay, I'm going to get a piece of tape so I can tape this in place. We're going to put this beehive on here. So I'm going to put the word honey down here. So kind of want to make sure I have enough room for that. That H is pretty big. So I want my beehive to be about here. Try and make sure it's looking straight. I'm going to put a piece of tape up here at the top of my stencil. Now, one reason why I like to make, or why I made my stencils clear, was because I could see exactly what it is laying on top of. Sometimes with those other ones, oh, my E is bent there. Sometimes with the other ones I couldn't see exactly where it was and what it was laying on, or how close. Some of them were a little difficult to see through, so that's why I did mine this way. So we're going to continue to use our little makeup sponge. Excuse me. And I want to get some honey brown out. Maybe a little cocoa, I don't know. Alright, so again, we're going to load it the same way, just by picking up a little bit of paint and working it onto our makeup sponge here that's not super absorbent. I'm going to zoom in here in a second. I want you to be able to see my palette here. Okay, I think I might pick up a little bit of cocoa on the other side. I don't know that it's going to be that much too noticeable of a transition there. Okay, let's zoom in here. Okay, we're going to do a straight up and down motion with our makeup sponge. And just put this on. I really feel like it needs to be a little bit darker. We are going to do some shading on here. I might just mix these two together for more. A little bit more of an opaque color. Alright, see how that's looking? Pretty good, pretty good. We're going to paint those lines in between there, so don't think, oh my gosh, those lines. Alright, I just want to have a good coverage on here. So now I'm going to pick up a little bit of burnt umber on my makeup sponge here. Figure out the side I want to put it on here. So I'm just putting a little bit on there. And we're going to go along the outer edges of this. This is going to start our shading here. With some roundness. A bit more burnt umber. And this is just going to get it all started for us, our shading. So as we move on and use our brush, it won't be near as much work. So we've got some shading on there, looking pretty good. Turn it this way. Get the stencil back lined up. I want to put a little bit where these lines are. Pretty good. Let's get a little bit of antique gold. And put a little bit of this on here. And tap a little bit. I should have done this before I did my burnt umber on here. I just want a little bit of a highlight in there. Maybe just a scooch more. It's almost taking it down too much. Alright, I think I'm going to take the stencil off so we can finish it with our brushes. I think I got me a little bit of paint under my stencil here. Oops. Took that down too far. All the way down. Didn't want to do that. Some antique gold on there. Cover that up. Okay, so for our lines in between, I'm going to use some soft black and burnt umber mix here. Brush. Oh, I don't know what number this is because it's kind of chipped off. My brush is just falling apart. See, one of my favorite brushes, and I hate to get rid of it. I really need to glue that ferrule back on there. Okay, so we're just going to take burnt umber, and this is burnt umber up here. This is soft black. We're just going to mix it together. Probably a little bit more burnt umber than we have soft black. Get a little bit of water here so it can make it where it will flow a little bit better. And we want to go in between our sections here. Now I know we have our little beehive-y things there, so if you're using the stencil to do this, you might want to kind of use a chalk pencil and take the stencil and add the beehive on here so that you don't put the honeycomb over where the beehive is going to be. Okay, the inside here we're going to paint with, I think I'll paint it with soft black and shade it with some lamp black. Well, at least try it with some soft black. See, I didn't bring my line over quite far enough. That's just your basic first coat there, so don't worry too much about it. I'm going to go over my things again with just burnt umber this time. Burnt umber is a little bit more of a transparent brown. Not as transparent as some of the other ones, but it can require quite a few coats. So that's one of the reasons why I mixed the soft black with it, so that I could get that opaqueness there. Do a quick second coat here. I'm sorry about that noise. I keep hitting my thing here that keeps my table from spinning, that locks it down. Okay, that wasn't quite dry. I should have let that dry a little bit more because I started lifting the paint right there. Okay, I'm going to let that dry. I'm going to take my curved flat here. And you can use a flat brush or an angle brush. Curved flat, this is a size 10. I still have some 10s and 6s. Let me find a 6. This is a 6, and this is a 10. So I still have these two sizes in the making of this video. I still have some on my website. They're my most favorite brush, so I try to keep them pretty in good condition since I know I can't get any more of them. I think we're gonna just shade along the outside edges here. Get my little mop brush here. Try and smooth that out a little bit. So you just load the brush. First you got to wake the brush up with water. You load the brush with paint and a little bit of water. You're mostly going to have the majority of the water over here on the curved edge. And that's going to make it for you to be able to walk your floats out. Now it feels like it's getting a little dry on the paint edge, so I picked up a little dot of water and worked it into my brush. You can't just pick up water and go directly to your palette, your project. You've got to work it in just like you would paint. So I'm just continuing on with the soft black. Create a little bit of... We added a little bit of our shading with the sponge, so now we're just defining it a little bit better. With the soft black. More water, more paint. And if you feel like you've got too much of either one, before you go to your project, go touch your paper towel. Just tip it on the paper towel and that will remove any extra that you feel like you've got on there. Let's go around this door. This float wasn't dry, so I kind of went through it, which is a big no-no. You gotta let them dry. Alright, we need to get some more golds on this thing, so let me get a dry brush. And we're going to go into some, I've just got a 4 filbert here. I'm loading it dry. I did not put any water in this brush. And we're going to drag some of this color across here. And we're going to go again. I'm going to mix a little bit of antique gold with that on my brush. So I just dipped into each color and blended them on my dry brush. Just getting a little bit more and loading my brush. When I'm off camera, I'm loading. Okay, let me finish painting the inside of this door again here. Get a little more solid coverage. And I feel like we've lost a little bit of the gold in our door, but before we add any gold in there, let's take a little bit of buttermilk. On that filbert brush. Now I did wash it out, but I removed as much water as I could out of it. And we'll just put some of this on here. That gold was not quite dry there. A little bit lighter, that looks much better. Okay, we're going to thin down some antique gold here and create a wash with it. So I had plenty of water in my brush. I'm going to go get a little bit more water. And we're just tinting the water is all we're doing. Just adding a little bit of color into that water. And then we're going to glaze over our honeycomb, our beehive here, and see if we can't get it a little bit more on our yellow side. And the highlights will really pick up this color. So that's good. We want it to do that. I'm not liking that as much out on my shaded sides. Let's get some of that media paint, the Dairy Light Yellow. And we're going to mix that with some water and really, really water this down. It's a bright, bright yellow. Super bright. Super bright. See how much brighter it is compared to that. And I think we'll put a little bit of this on here. I love these media paints because the colors in them are so vibrant. I'm just going to gently mop that. It will remove a little bit of it, especially if you feel like you've got too much on there. The mopping will take that down and make it a much softer color. Okay, let's try and float a little bit of black inside the hive here. Bring it down just a little bit. I'm just going to mop it. Kind of soften it. We just kind of put it back at the back there. And I think the top of that is dry enough for me to float just a little bit of the buttermilk up there for a little highlight. We might come back once that yellow dries and add a little bit of our highlight of the light buttermilk back on top of here. Oh, okay. I'm taking my buttermilk and mixing just the tiniest amount of that media Dairy Light yellow. I'm going to wipe off on my paper towel and very lightly brush this across. Our beehive here. Very gentle pressure. You don't want to push hard on your brush at all. Just want that little gentle pressure there. Okay, I'm going to come back with a tiny bit of black. Through here, of our sections. Just in the center. You don't want it everywhere, just in the center. Makes it look a little bit deeper. Okay, I want to add a little bit of washes onto our beehive, and we might add some of that yellow back in there, that dairy hide yellow. I think it could use a little bit more of that wash. But the colors that we're going to use is that green here, the yellow light green. Now if you're using just acrylic paint, you could use leaf green maybe, thin it down. It's a little bit bluer than this, is a little bit greener. So we want just a tiny little bit of this color. We're going to be putting this color in the wings of our bees. So just pick a couple of places on your beehive that you want to put some of that color. Okay, then we're going to do the same thing with this green here. This one is the yellow-green light, the media yellow-green light. It's pretty bright. So we'll put a little bit of this on there. Just wherever you would like to have some color, just throw it on there. Okay? And I'm going to add a little bit of this yellow back on there. Just a scooch. I hope my thing wasn't across the screen the whole time for that. So it's just little washes of color on there because we're going to be adding that. A wide angle out so you can see it a little bit more, and I hope that's straight on there. It kind of looks a little bit crooked. Little bit. I might take this down just a little bit. Seems a little bright. That pink color seems a little bit bright. Okay, I'm going to drag some color up through here. Maybe some burnt umber. Like a little bit of reflected light back in there. I don't know if burnt umber will show up, but we'll try it. Maybe get a little bit of cocoa with it. soft black. Take that down just a little bit. Came up a little higher than what I wanted. I just want that a little bit back in there. You can leave that off. You don't have to add that if you don't want to. Our beehive looks pretty good. I want to add some little bit of leaves on it. Okay, I feel like he's a little tilted, so we're going to try and cover that. Let's use some burnt umber here. And we're going to add a little bit of some shading down here. Kind of pull it out. Now, from the door, if you wanted, even though it's in a jar, you could make a little path. I mean, we're making this very whimsical. So you could make a little path on there. So we'll take a little bit of our buttermilk. I think I've got way too much water in my brush here. Maybe a touch of antique gold. And some burnt umber. Let's see. That makes a nice path color. It's almost too muddy. I like those muddy colors. So let's try burnt umber and some warm white. You know, you shake and you shake on your bottle and you can't get anything to come out of it, and then all of a sudden you've got a puddle that's big enough to paint 10 projects. So I'm trying to find a nice path color. I'm not having a whole lot of luck here mixing colors that I like. Alright, I've got some burnt umber and warm white. Nope, that's way too light. I need something more dark in there. So let's go with the soft black. Soft black. It's got a teeny tiny little bit of warm white in it because soft black tends to it's got more browns in it, but when you mix it with a lighter color, it really brings out the pink tones in it. Just an illusion of a little path. Take this part off over here that I put on. Okay, I'm going to take a tiny little bit of soft black and deepen my shadow under here. A little bit. Okay, let's add some teeny tiny little leaves on here. So if you're unsure, let me find my pencil here. I want just a little bit of vines on here, not a whole lot. So we can come around here and bring our vines over that way, and then we can bring some this way and maybe have one coming off of it. And you can just be the judge of your little vine things. And maybe one that comes up there on the top. So we're not going to, add a whole lot on here. But I want to add, let me get a liner brush out because that would be much easier to make a vine with, as soon as I can find one. And we'll go into our burnt umber and add a little bit of soft black into it, not very much. And we'll just kind of, this needs to be a little bit thinned down so it will flow off of your brush nicely. And I'm just kind of wiggling and not, I don't want it to be straight lines. So you kind of move your brush a little bit. Maybe put a few. That was a little fat line. A little bit too fat for me. Maybe just a few coming off here. Maybe out away from it. And this kind of goes up and down. It's kind of hard to really tell that. And maybe we'll just have, maybe, I'm not getting the paint to flow right now. Need more water. I feel like my paint's dried up in my brush here. A little more burnt umber in the mix. It's looking a little dark. Okay, so we don't want to get carried away with our vines and stuff. So that's I think that's all I'm going to do on there. So we want to add a few little leaves on here. So I'm going to get a little tiny filbert brush. And I'm going to put some leaf green out. That little filbert brush up. I might get a tiny little bit of soft black in there just to darken the green a little bit, just the tiniest little bit. And we just want to create some little leaves on here. You can add some buttermilk to it if you want some brighter leaves. I want mine to be a little bit darker. And it really is just a lay the brush down and lift it up kind of thing. And the harder you push, obviously, the bigger your leaves will be. And your leaves can go any direction you want them to go. And they don't have to be directly connected to the vine if you don't want them to be. So let me add a little bit of buttermilk or warm white to my green. And you can see the difference in the colors here. A little bit more brighter green there. So you could make a few of them this color. And you're the boss of how many leaves you want on your project. A little bit more of that darker green. And I just go and pick up colors on my brush. I don't worry about if they mix together or... We have all those colors in our palette, so we don't have to stress out about it. Okay, I'm going to erase my lines that I drew on here. Make sure your paint is dry when you do this, because you'll just erase your paint off. And then you can look and see if you want to add any more on there, or add a highlight on any of them, which I think I just might add a little bit of a highlight on a few of them. So I'm going to take my warm white, add a tiny little bit of green in there. I'll get my brain going here in a second. So I'm just tapping this on a few of the leaves. The leaves aren't the focal point, so we don't have to worry about them being perfect. So just pick some random leaves and just add a little bit of highlight. And I just use the liner brush to do that. Okay? Okay, I was testing a color to see if I would like it because I wasn't sure if I was going to like it or not. So I've laid my stencil on here. If you're going to just transfer the letters, that's fine. Make sure this row right here is straight. The H comes down further here, so it kind of throws it off. So ignore that part and make sure all these lines are straight. So I have mixed mulberry and tomato red, 2 tomato red to 1 mulberry. And I'm going to tap that in on the lettering down here. Oh, try and stay off that butterfly there. Should have put a piece of tape across it. I have to touch that up with a liner there because it's not wanting to fill in that spot. Ooh. Don't move your stencil. I should have it taped down in a couple places. That would make it a little bit better. But if you're just, you know, using a brush and painting the letters in, you won't have any worries. So you'll want to use a small round brush to do this. Cut that off here. I might have to do some touching up. A little bit more red on my palette. Now you can paint your letters in whatever color is within the palette. If you don't want letters on yours at all, that's fine. You can just fill the jar with bees. Be my honey. That's what we're making. Alright, I'm going to take that off. Touch up that one letter that didn't quite get any paint all the way through it here. And then try and erase where that butterfly was. Okay, get my eraser out. I'm going to dip the end of it into some water and come over here and very gently try and remove that. I don't want to go all the way down and remove the underneath like I did up there, but I think I just might. Right. Touch that up. Just a mix of some colors. I think I used primary yellow and some cocoa or something. Okay, so up here for the word bee, which I think I'm going to do the B, and then I'm going to move the E closer. I think it could stand to be a little bit closer to that B. I'm going to do it with black, so I'm going to cut the end of my sponge off so I can go into some black paint now. Get me some fresh black out. You could do soft black up here. burnt umber. Just tap it on. Straight up and down motion. It's important. Don't push it or, oh, you're not even on camera. Don't push it or pull it or twist it or slide it. Alright, I'm going to lift this up and see if I think that black is too dark. No, I'm going to like it. Okay, I'm going to move the E a little closer here. And tap that on. Try and stay off of that E because I want to move it closer. And hopefully I'm keeping these letters straight. Probably marking a line on there would be much better than eyeballing it like I did. Okay, now for the word my. I'll line it up with the B word. Drawing a line across here would probably be an excellent idea. And I'll probably see. Of course, my jar is not perfectly straight on the side, so you can see my letters are not lined up very well. And it's really hard to do because the jar's doesn't have any straight edges. So let's see if that's going to look too low. It's just the M really we gotta get straight. The Y will follow. Take this piece of tape off here. And what color do I want my to be? My. Ooh, sorry about that. Okay, here we go. I'm back at it here. I had to step away for a while, but I am back. We're going to do the my. I'm going to put it in with honey brown. Probably will go over it with another color on top of this because I don't think this is going to show up as well as I would like it to. Let's see how that looks. Not too bright, kind of plain. Okay, so the word honey we're going to go back over and add some shading and highlighting on. So this one I want to do the same. So one color we haven't used anywhere else is moon yellow. So I'm just going to get a little bit of that on my sponge here. Kind of work it in. And we'll work this on the top of this letter. And then I think on the bottom of the letter we'll do burnt umber. I'll just work some in, so we should have the yellow here, the honey brown there, and the burnt umber right there. So I'll put a little bit of this. I might mix a little bit of honey brown in with that. Maybe not quite that dark. Oh, that's not dark enough now. From one extreme to the other. We'll just put this on the bottom of the letters. Let's see how that's looking. A little bit lighter on the top. I think we need a little bit lighter. So let's go with our warm white. And we'll put that on the yellow edge. Excuse me. On the yellow edge where we had the yellow paint. And I'm going to tap a little bit of that off of my palette. I don't want this to be super bright. Now I'm just barely tapping this on here. I'm not pushing down any with that sponge because I just want to leave a small amount of that paint on there. Well, that looks pretty good. I kind of like that. Okay, so I'm going to move down here and put the stencil back on my honey. I'm going to dry that in my real quick. Now, any of your lettering that you do, if you're stenciling it and it doesn't look like we got enough paint on it, then you can just go back with your round brush and put some paint on that right there. So back to our honey here. Put the stencil on. And now let's see, we had tomato red. I have to get me a new piece of palette paper out here, I think. And the mulberry. So I'm going to put that out. I've got warm white out, and for the bottom shading on this letter, I think I want soft black. So I'm going to take my red colors, which was 2 of these tomato red and 1 mulberry, and I mixed them, and I'm going to add a little bit of warm white in there. So it's going to lighten it up quite a bit. A little bit too pink, so I'm going to put that off on my paper towel. It's too pink. That's very pink. I don't want it to be that pink, so I'm going to remove quite a bit of the paint, or I could take my scissors and cut that off. Go back into my warm white and pick up a little bit. And then we're just going to lightly tap on the top of these letters with the warm white. When you pick up fresh paint on your sponge here, you want to be very, very gentle when you start tapping. Okay, I'm going to go kind of wipe a lot of that off. And then on the other end, I'm going to pick up some soft black. And I put a little tiny bit of the tomato red in there. You can't even hardly see it, but it's on there. When I go this time, I'm going to make sure that this end is tilted up so I don't get any pink down here on the bottom of my letters. Now, if you're doing this with a brush, then you'll just want to kind of like dry brush drag these colors up and down. Let's see how this looks. Not too bad. That looks pretty good. Okay, I'm going to remove the stencil for a moment. Wide angle out so you can start seeing a little bit of it. Alright, that's looking really cute so far. We've got to add some bees in here and a few leaves, and then we've got something really cool we're going to do up here on the lid. Alright, I felt like this needed to be just a touch brighter. So I am using my warm white. I've thinned it down a little bit. And I'm just using a liner brush and just kind of letting it kind of fall down, just drag down the letters. Brighten it up. Now if you're not very good at lettering, practicing it is the best way to get good at it. You have to have really good brush control when you're doing it. So that's why I gave the stenciling as an option. I love doing lettering. It's just one of my favorite things to do. Okay, so that really brightened that up. I like that much better. So I'm going to do the same thing with the soft black on the bottom. Oops. Got some water on my ferrule. I need to get that off because if it runs down, it's just going to make a puddle on my surface and in my paint. And we don't want that. Now the soft black didn't do too bad with the sponge, I must admit. I probably could have put a second coat on, that probably would have helped it. So if you're doing the stencil and sponging yours on, you might want to do 2 coats. Don't want to cover up all your red. I almost covered up all my red on that. And that in there. You could use a small round brush to do this as well. Okay, now up here on because the letters are so much fatter, let's get our burnt umber. And I think I'm going to float along the bottom of those. This is how you would be doing it if you're not doing the stencil and the sponge. So we'll float this along the bottom, kind of bring it up a little bit. You need that water on your brush, so spritz your palette with water. This is the water that I use when I need water for my brush to float. So I'll go over here and get some little water drops and pick up my paint, work them in my brush together, and then go paint with it. Okay, let's add a little brighter highlight on the top with that warm white. Probably could just omit the yellow altogether. So I think in my instructions they'll just say to highlight with warm white. And repeat it if you need it. I highly recommend a second coat here. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now I think for my smaller round brush here, I've got a pretty big one, so I'm going to need a smaller one. On my bee, I'm going to fix the black there. It's not quite covering. So this is just with a round brush. This is how you would be doing it if you're just going to paint it in. So I'm just going to touch up a little bit on here. Stay up on the tip of the brush for those nice fine lines. And then you can take these little breaks out of it here if you don't want them from the stencil. If you're not stenciling, you can omit the breaks here, or the bridges is what they're called, and just make it a complete loop there. And then when you get in the fatter areas, you can give a little bit more pressure on the brush. And right here is a break or a bridge that we can fill in. Clean this up here. It's a little ragged and rough. Okay, so I'm going to close the bridges on the E's as well. Let me smooth this edge out. Close the bridge and fill in. I like to pull down when I am painting my letters in. I don't like to go across. This little area right here needs to be a little more rounded. So I like to always bring the brush down towards me. I don't like to go up or at an angle away from me, because then I have less control of my brush. So I think that looks a little bit better. Let's wide angle out. That looks much better. So I'm considering doing a drop shadow on these. I haven't decided yet. I really think I need a little bit more red. Put a second coat of red on here. That's a 2-to-1 mix, tomato red and mulberry, because I want to use the mulberry on the bee wings. I know you're probably thinking, mulberry on the bee wings. Well, yeah, it's kind of a little reflective color that we're going to do on there. So this is how also, if you feel like you've gotten too much white or too much red or too much dark down here, this is how you can take some of that down by just pulling your red down through it. And then your red up into it. A little bit of water in my mix here. So you can pull some of that back up in there if you feel like you've gone too far, and it will shorten that. You don't want to get out of line like I just did though. Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay, let's zoom in here. We're going to do a drop shadow with black. So I'm going to stay a little bit away from my letters. Right here. Follow the letter. Got that one a little bit close to it. Push on it on the thicker parts and come up on the brush on the thinner parts. I'm just using a small round. And again, this is optional. If you don't want to do any kind of drop shadowing, you do not have to do it. And generally when you're having start and stop areas, like going around stuff like this, like where that one, on camera, where that one started, this one will start directly opposite of it. Oops. Touch that warm white up right there. Okay, so I'll wide angle out so you can see that a little bit better. So now that really, to me, it really makes the letters come out. Brings them forward. So we're going to do the same thing with my this one will be pretty easy because there's not a whole lot going on with it. I might put a little bit up here. There. Okay, now the bee, even though it is in black, I think I'll get my liner brush and we will create a very thin line next to it. So we'll start up here. I'm trying not to get right on it like I just did there and like I did over here. I'm trying to leave that space between the letters. Okay, so there we go. That looks pretty good. Okay, we'll wide angle out. pretty good. We're ready to start adding some bees and a few leaves in there. Okay, let's zoom in here a little bit. I want to put some leaves around my words down here. So this stencil has some leaf patterns on it. Has those kind, and it has that one, which I'm not going to use, and it has these right here. And I've got those in 2 different sizes. But I like these. There we go. I like these particular ones. So I kind of want to put them coming maybe out around my letters somewhere. So I'm going to take some green. This might be hard to keep off of my letters. So let's see. I want them to be kind of behind the letters. I'm trying to determine exactly where I want them to be. Well, maybe it would help if I just drew a couple of these in here. So I'm just going to trace the stencil here. Let's see if I like that on there. Maybe I'll do maybe. I just like these leaves. I think they are just really cool. So and I think over here I'll just do a couple of leaves. From this stencil. Because who says you have to use the whole stencil? Huh? Nobody. Alright. So, let's paint those in. I'll just use a brush. I've got some leaf green here and a little bit of soft black. So I'm just adding a little bit of soft black into my leaf green to kind of just darken it up a little bit. So we can just go in here and paint these in. And we can go right over our letters. That's no problem right there. At first I didn't think I would like them over my letters, but now I'm thinking, yeah, I do like that over my letters. So we can just base coat these in, or I could have just used the stencil. Put a little bit more of that brighter green in there. We just want a tiny little bit of that soft black in there. Alright, we'll get these other ones painted in. And I'm going to paint them in just the exact same way I did there. 2 coats. I'm going to go off camera and do that so my video isn't so long. Okay, I've got my base coats in. So now I'm just adding some little curly cues in here. Kind of goes with the lettering up there. You want to stay up on the tip of the brush when you're doing this because it makes it much easier. And this letter, or this leaf, I had to go behind that letter. Woo. Okay, that one got a little out of hand. Well, it wash it off. You don't want it going that crazy. Okay, I think I'm also going to add beside these some dots. Where are we going? Just wherever. Just using my liner brush. Out so you can see those. Now we've got to do some shading and highlighting on those. Let me erase my graphite lines on here. Anything we didn't get covered up, we definitely want to erase. Okay, let's shade on our leaves. We're going to take our leaf green and lamp black. So we're going to dip into leaf green twice and lamp black once. So you dip into leaf green, then you dip into black. You blend it, then you go dip into leaf green again, and you blend all three. And we are going to shade these leaves with this mix. This leaves a little bit darker, so I'm going to have to add a little bit more black to it. This is making very close to a black green. If you have black green and you want to grab that, you can, but you can mix just about any green with black to get pretty close to a black green. So I'm going to say we're going to go maybe equal amounts to get that darker green on there. So just a 1-to-1 mix here. And if it's too dark for you, add a little bit more of the leaf green. I'm going to go beside this letter. I probably should use a smaller brush here. Now your leaves, you know, I think in my instructions I said just base them in with leaf green, but you can mix some warm white, some soft black with them. You can make your leaves whatever color you want them to be. These are not going to be, we're not going to do a whole lot to these because they are not our main point. Now I want to drag some of this, maybe, get some water here into our stems. You could also do this with a liner brush instead of this great big humongous brush that I'm using. Okay. Now we'll put a little highlight on there. And I think I wanted to try buttermilk for my highlight, but I don't know, that might be too light. So Let's do equal amounts of buttermilk and leaf green. And put a right little highlight on these. Got a little bit too much water in my brush here, so that's probably going to just melt down in there. So anything that you need to repeat, you just go right ahead and repeat. We'll have a little bit of a highlight right there and on the tip. We can put a little bit back here. Use the water edge of your brush, smooth things out. Okay, I think that looks pretty good for honey. I might go over it one more time, add just a scooch more of the buttermilk in there. You'll do a little bit less on the highlight. That means you won't cover the whole area that you covered previously. We'll just make it a little less. Smooth out. And there we go. I think that looks pretty good for the honey. Let's get to adding some bees in here. Yeah, I feel like my leaves down here need just a little bit of some extra little leaves coming out somewhere. This is my filbert brush that we used up here. And we'll just put a few. Leaf strokes in here. Just around. Alright. Just a few little strokes in there. Nothing serious. Okay, I think that's good enough. Good enough, I say. I say. Let's add maybe some tiny little flowers on here. Let's add some buttermilk. We're just going to do some little dabs of flowers in there. Might come back and add some pink ones in there. These are just little like dot flowers. 4 or 5 little dots. Okay, I think that's good enough. I might add one more down here, a couple down here. There we go. Sorry, I saw another place I thought a couple needed to go. Make this one a little bit bigger. These that are out here on the yellow are going to have a second coat. Alright, there we go. Alright, now we're going to add some bees. So on my stencil, and I'll have this drawn out for a pattern. This bee up here is pretty small. And this one's kind of big, but I think we can use him too. Okay, so we just want to figure out where we want to place our bees. And I am going to just tap their body in. I'm going to get a small piece of sponge here. I'm just going to tap them in with some buttermilk for placement. So I want this one right here. Okay, that's kind of just for placement, so oh, I've got a piece of stencil bent there, so that's not helping. Let's turn this one and have it go in this direction. This is light buttermilk. This is just for placement where we want to put our bees. Let's see, I think I want one right here. I've just got a teeny tiny little piece of makeup sponge. I use these sponges until there is literally nothing left of them. There's no need to waste any of the sponges because they will work for several different sizes of projects. I'm trying to straighten out my stencil here where it's bent. Sure how I got it bent there. Alright. Let's see. Let's put a bee over here. Remember, you pick up a little bit of paint and you tap it onto your, whew, that's a lot of paint, onto your palette to get rid of some of it, or not. That was a lot of paint there. Where's my other bee at? Let's put one down here at the bottom. Okay, we're going to be painting these in by hand, so this is just placement. Let's do one more. I like to have odd numbers of stuff. I really would kind of like to have one up here. And they can be going through our letters. They don't have to. Alright. Let's leave it at that for now. Alright, I'm going to show you how to paint a couple of these bees, then I'll go off camera and do the rest of them. So I'm taking my primary yellow and mixing a little bit of antique gold in with it because the primary yellow might not cover as well as I would like it to. So I'll work on two different bees here. So we're going to base the body in with this color. And don't worry, you'll be able to see it when we get done. You know, right now it's kind of blending in there, but we'll see it this one. We'll just go all the way up to the top. The very top of the head there will be black, but this will just make it easier. Okay. I'm just going to wipe my brush off. Let me get some black out here. So I'm going to take that brush. I'm using a small round brush, and then I'm just going to start kind of pulling some black into our bees like this. And we're getting a little bit narrower here. Okay, so that is our bee there, and then we want to head here. Okay. Oh, let me find my stencil. He's got a couple of little bitty antenna up here. Still using black. Stay up on the very tip for those thin lines. He's got a couple of legs here. And then he's got some legs that come out here. Okay. Alright, this guy over here, let's do his head first because that will help us out a whole lot. So he's got his eyes there. Oh, probably like that on camera, wouldn't you? And then we'll start coming. They'll have a little bit of an arrow area there that will stay yellow. And then we'll start adding some. Okay, and then his legs. Let's see, his antenna come off like this. Okay, and then he's got a leg here, and a leg here. And a leg here. If you were able to paint it in with and still retain your shapes, that's very, very helpful. Okay, let me go to a smaller brush here. Okay, one white. And with the warm white, we're going to add a little tiny little highlight. I don't like that highlight. Let me paint that over with some black. So we'll wait to do the highlight up there. Alright, so we're going to do some shading on these bees. Okay, let's get the bees back on camera here. I've gone down to my 6 curve flat now, so if you're using an angle brush, you'll want to go to like a 1/8 inch probably, or you can use a small flat So we're going to create a float of black, but I want to keep this super duper focus. There we go. Super duper sheer. So I'm picking up a little bit and I'm really working it with a damp brush, getting it nice and sheer. Now how your paint looks on your palette, as you're stroking through it with your brush, that's how it's going to look when you go paint with it. It won't change in between here to there unless you start talking and your paint dries out. So we want to shade along the edges of our bee body. You see why we need a very sheer color there. We don't want to cover up all of our gold. And this is going to help us get the shape of our bee better. Okay. Now we want to put a highlight down the bee's back. Get some warm white on my 6 curve flat, very sheer like I did my lamp black. And we're going to go down the back. Oops. Down the back. I'm going to flip it over and come beside it. It's called a back-to-back float. Create a nice little shine on the back there. Try and show you a little bit better on this one. Down the back. There we go. You don't want to have a gap between them, that's for sure. So I'm going to redo this one. You can just dry brush down the back too. If you are not comfortable doing a back-to-back float, then you can just dry brush some warm white down the back. But if this is not something you're comfortable doing, I want you to practice it, because it's something that's good to have in your arsenal of things that you can do as a painter. Alright, I'm going to try and float some warm white on the head there. It's almost too much. Do a little bit on here. Go back with some black on the opposite side just because I want to make sure that that stays black. And this bee is so tiny. I mean, his eyes here are so tiny. Alright, I'm going to add a little stinger thing on the back here. Try to with this brush. There we go. Alright. I'm going to fix a leg over here. There is my liner. There we go. Way over there. These legs don't quite match up here. Add some little highlights on there. We'll go back to our warm white. We're going to stay with our liner brush. So thin it down a little bit. And we're just going to do a little kind of dot dash highlight on here. These little bees aren't that big, so some of this probably won't even show up. Well, we just want to have a little bit. On here I did another project. It was called The Buzzing of the Bees, that had much more realistic detailed bees on it. These are just some little fun ones. Maybe a little highlight on the stinger, and then I'm going to add a little bit more on the back there, a little brighter highlight. Okay. Excuse me. Let's work on the wings. Now, we're going to create some sheer washes for our wings. And we want to have, if you decide you want to use some blues in here, somewhere within this project you could, and then put some blues in the wings. Oh, that's not the brush I need. I need my 6 curved flat here. So we want to create a sheer color of this, but we need water. So I'll spritz my palette. I'm going to pick up some water on my brush and come over here and create like a wash of this color. Okay. We are going to put this on the tops of our wings. And that's almost too much paint there. Oops. So I'll take the water edge and kind of remove some of that. I just want a little soft color of this. I can always come back and intensify it if I need to. And I would rather do that than get too much to begin with. So now I'm going to go into that green, that media green color. And create a little wash of it. And kind of put this on the bottom of the wings. I don't like that, so I'm going to take that off. Don't like the green, so we're going to keep it just the mulberry color. So, back to my water drops over here. Nice clean water. And into my mulberry. My camera focus there. Sheer color. Sheer color. Alright, put this on the wings. Here, we'll put it on these wings. Okay, now you can use grays on your bees' wings as well. You don't have to use the mulberry like I'm using. I really like that color on there. So I'm going to take a little bit, I think I'm going to use some burnt umber. And again, this is just a sheer little color of this. And we'll put the burnt umber down here on the lower part of the wings. And add a little bit more of that on there. It's and let's see, let's do it on the other one. Sorry about that. I thought I had my phone off. This is burnt umber. So we just kind of washed over the wings with mulberry. Now we're adding some burnt umber. I'm going to take a sheer float of soft black like we did on the body. where it's mostly water and we're really working it into the brush. Okay? And I want to put this next to the body on the wings. You need just a tiny bit more paint in that brush. Still keeping it very sheer. Coming out too far. I don't want it to come out that far. Okay, I'm going to get a little drop of water here. I feel like my brush is dry. And then next to the body here. And here. Okay, you can make these bees as easy or as complicated as you would like them to be. Alright, now our final little detail is we're going to add some veining in the wings. Now you really got to have your paint thin, inky consistency. We are going to use lamp black. You can use soft black if you would like. You got to have it really thin. You've got to stay up on the tip. You've got to have a very fine liner. I'm using a 10-0 liner, which is probably big for some people, but it's the one that I like to use the most. Okay, here we go. We're just going to make some very thin lines in the wings. This is why you got to have your paint really thin. Be up on the very tippy toe. If you start putting it on and it looks like super dark lines, looks dark to you right now because you are close in there. But those are super fine lines. Then you've got your paint too dark, and quickly just take a damp brush and wash it out and try it again. It's almost like creating stained glass in a wing. Okay. Very super fine lines. Let me get this guy on camera. My paint is very washy. It's mostly water, so I can create those super fine lines. Now all my bees will be done the same way. And that line got a little bit fat there. Okay, so there's their wings. I want to highlight on them. And I think this time I'm going to use some Snow White. We have not used Snow White anywhere on this project yet. So this will be the first place, so we might have to use it somewhere else. I don't think warm white's going to be quite as bright as what I want it to be. So I'm going to highlight on the top edge here. This again is very sheer. It's going to fade back down in there because it's a lot of water and not a lot of paint. This one's already fading down in there, see? So I'm going to stroke over it again. I love painting with washes and sheer colors. I just think it's a lot of fun. You can get some nice depth and color in your projects. Okay, now those beads look ginormous, I'm telling you. On the camera, on the monitor that I'm looking at, they look huge. So I'm going to wide angle you out so you can see them. They're not all that big. So maybe they're a little big for that beehive, but I think they're cute bees. Cute bees. So I'm going to go finish up my other bees on here, and hopefully we'll get them to look just like that. When I don't paint everything all at the same time, they never quite look the same, but because my color mixes may not be exactly the same. But I'm going to try and get them as close to that color as I can. And I think I'm also going to add some yellow on my leaves. I think my leaves need some yellow on them. So I'm just going to add a little bit of probably primary yellow. And a little bit of, you probably can't even see that. Well, maybe we don't want to add too much because then they'll start blending back into the background. So scratch that. Scratch that. Scratch it. Scratch it. Just scratch it right off of there. Damping it. Take a paper towel. Tap it. Take it away. Okay. Alright. So I'm going to go finish my bees now. I think those bees look so cute. I love, love, love them. Alright. Let me finish up. Okay. I got all my bees in now. I'm going to take a little tiny wash of that mulberry and put some of it on my flowers up here. Now we want to do some fun stuff to our wings here. My favorite thing to do is bling up any project I do. I mean, I just want bling on everything. Not particularly a fan of wearing it, but I love to paint it. So we're going to put Glamour Dust Ice Crystal on our bees' wings. And I will probably apply 3 coats. You can apply 1, 2, 3, 10. It's up to you. But I love it on my bees. On any wings, on anything that I paint with wings, I really love it on there. So I'm just going to brush coat on our wings. And even after you varnish, all this sparkle will be right here. And if you want an extra added dimension on here, you can add, after you varnish it, I'm sorry, my brain just went dead for a second. The liquid glass, media liquid glass. Love that product. Love it. And then it will really make the bees' wings pop out even more. But I just love the Glamour Dust. I especially like the ice crystal. I think the ice crystal is my favorite one because it goes on and dries transparent. So all of your color underneath stays the color that it is. But they have a multitude of colors to go with the paint colors. So let's say you're painting something, a red color. They have a sizzling red. That will go on top of just about any red. I mean, every color you can imagine. They have gold, blue, green. Just amazing, amazing, amazing products. Let me wide angle you out. You won't be able to see the sparkle just yet. It's just going to be kind of a glare on there. But oh my gosh, when that sparkle is dry, it is going to be gorgeous. Gorgeous. They have a black one, and I might do the black in there. Let me see if I can find it. So the black one is called Black Tie, and I really like it. I don't know if that would take away by making that sparkly inside there or not, but I can put some on. If I don't like it, I can just wash it right off. This will kind of cover up that little bit of a highlight that we put on there. And I could just do 1 coat on here instead of the 3 that I usually do. So, and that will add some glitzy glitz in there. Maybe that's where they get the sparkle on their wings, from their beehive. Who knows? Who knows? And you can put that Glamour Dust anywhere. If you want to put it across the word honey, if you want to put it on your leaves, you can put it anywhere. Let me wide angle out just a little bit more so you can see the whole thing here. So it's looking really cute. I want to shade around this, but I want to wait till I get my bee's wings completely done. And I thought about doing the dot, 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 but I think that will just be too much for this project, so I'm just going to leave the bees there. We're going to shade around here, and then we're going to do some really cool stuff up here for the lid. Okay, let me zoom in just a scooch, not too much. I'm going to float around the edges here. I've got 2 coats of the Glamour Dust on there, so you can kind of see some sparkle going on. I'm still going to put one more coat on there. Okay, I've got honey brown and burnt umber here, and I got paint too far over on my brush, so I'm going to wipe that off. I'm going to mix the 2 of these together. I don't want the paint all the way over on my brush. I do want water on that other edge though. I have got an old flat brush here. You use whatever brush you want. This is actually a 1-stroke 3/4 inch brush. I love these brushes. I tell you what, they are pretty good brushes. So if you have one of those, I highly recommend you using one. A little bit more burnt umber in there, because I want this to actually look like the jar has honey in it. I'm just picking up a little bit more honey brown or burnt umber in the brush. I think I've got almost too much water here. I want a nice wide float. That's why I got such a large brush. And if you have to pick up water, make sure you pick up clean water. So you have clean water on your opposite edge. You don't want to have a ghost float on your piece. And I went right through that float, so it just removed it. So back on down there. A little bit more honey brown in the mix. It's supposed to look like honey in the jar, not dirt. And some more over here. And you can go back and repeat this as many times as you think you might need. I'm just removing here because my float is still wet. So I need to just leave it alone and get out of it. A little wide angle out here. I still think I want that to come out. Maybe just a little bit. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I think I'm going to put some highlights in there to actually make it look like a jar. Streak some highlights on there, but I want to get my other Glamour Dust sparkle on there before I do that. So, where is my Glamour Dust? I need to put some more out. I'm not going to add any more in here. I did mix some ice crystal in with my black tie when I put the second coat on, but that's all that's going on that area right there. And I really wish when I take photographs that this Glamour Dust would show up, because it is so fun, so sparkly, and I hate that the pictures don't show that awesome sparkle in there. And I don't think any of my bees' wings are shaped the same, but that's okay. No two bees are alike, just like no two flowers are alike. No two people are alike. Everything is different and has its own little goober in there. Don't want that. So fun, so fun, so fun. Okay, let me see if I'm going to like some streaking on here with some, let's do some Snow White. If not, I will remove it to give it the look of like a jar. You know, the highlights on a jar. That might be just a little bit too much. I'm just using Snow White. I'm using a filbert, but you can use, really, to do this, you can use any brush, a round brush, flat brush, any brush you like. Alright, getting us a jar of honey here. I just feel like this one needs to be wider. Make sure you do shape following here. It's a little bit bright. So was that one. Alright, I think I'll just call that good right there. Give it the look of a jar of honey. I think that looks good. Looks good, looks good. Okay, this part down here is all done. Definitely starting to look like a jar of honey. All my bling is dry. Looks gorgeous. Loving that bling of mine. Okay, we're going to work on the top now. And now there's two ways that you can do this. You can just paint it a metal lid, a nice gray color, and add some rust in there with some of our browns and some of our reds and just make it look old and rusty. But that's not what I want to do. I want to make like a gingham thing that's been tied on here. So we're going to take our leaf green and I'm going to add a little bit of white to it. I'm going to use, and I don't usually use these kind of brushes. This is a 2 flat brush. Normally I use a round brush that I can shape into a flat, but I'm going to use this because these brushes just don't hold up very well. So I'm mixing some green and some white. I would say we're going to do about equal amounts, but more towards the white side than the green side. A little bit lighter. So we're going to make like a gingham pattern on here. So gingham is simply just little tiny checks. So you make lines for gingham, you make them one direction. Kind of space them out nicely, and I'm not going to worry if I don't get solid coverage here. I really want this to look old and worn out and faded. And I'm just going to brush mix, so if I don't get my color exact, I'm not going to worry about that either. So we're just going to create our lines going up and down, and hopefully you are getting them straight and not like me and getting them cattywampus. I'm not giving hardly any pressure on the brush. I'm letting it just kind of glide across there and leave some paint. The top of mine is kind of rough because I was trying to do something else and I didn't like it, so then I scraped it off so it left a little bit of texture on there. I'm getting my lines too close together now. Over there they started out a little bit farther apart. Okay. Alright, so we've got them going that way, so now we want to make them go this way. Okay, so I'm going to start in the middle. And bring a line. Hopefully straight across. That was not even remotely straight. A little water in my brush. Okay, and then just add some lines this way. Need to mix some more paint here. I'm running out of paint. And then along here we'll have kind of a hit and miss thing. And then finish up here. Okay, so that's sort of a gingham look. So that's what you're kind of going for. Now you don't have to do gingham. You can put flowers on yours. You can do stripes on yours. You know, like I said, you can paint it to look just like a lid, but I want this to be a little bit different. Okay, so now we want to try and add some high spots here. So this this fabric is going up and down, up and down, up and down. So the up parts, well, let's see, is that the down part? Up and down. I'm thinking that this is going to be the highlight sections. So I'm just drawing some triangles on there. We're going to create some highs where the fabric is going up the highest. And we're going to want to take some kind of dry, scruffy brush here. Any old kind that you have. I'm going to pick up some white paint, unload it. I'm on a dry brush, dry part of my paper towel, unload the paint, and very gently start adding some of this in there. This is Snow White. I have to go to a more flat brush. This one's pretty round, kind of domed. So I might have to go to a more flat brush. Doesn't look like much now. Don't worry. We're in the ugly stages right here of this top. I want to be at least as wide as what the arch is. And then narrow out at the back end of it. You're starting out with very light pressure, and you can give a little bit more pressure as you can tell how much is coming off of your brush. I'm getting some high spots there. We're going to come back and intensify those here in a little bit, and I think I will wash this brush out because I want to get a different brush. But if this is the only kind of brush that you have, then you just go right ahead and continue to use that brush. But I want to get a more flat filbert type brush. Okay, I'm going to take a 6 curved flat. Now you use whatever brush you want to use. And we're going to make some little wrinkles in our fabric. So on the edges here. Yeah, this is where it's kind of bunching up. Over there is too straight. I don't like it. So I'm going to erase it off. Try that again. Okay, because the highlight is going to be up on the top side. And then we'll put some shadows below it. Okay, so while we got this little brush here with our white, we'll go on our high places here. That's going to be actually dark right there. Take your water edge, kind of soften that out on the edges. I need to highlight along the top edge. Oops. I need a much bigger brush for that. I'm going to start out, and I don't want that to be straight white, so I'm going to do white with just a tiny touch of green, lighter than what we did our checks here. And we're going to go along the top. A little bit of water. Almost have too much water now. It's going to make my paint just kind of fade away to nothing. Just kind of bring that down on there a little bit. We're going to glaze over this at the end with that green media paint, so we'll get some brightness going on there. Okay, we want to re-intensify these before we add our shading. Okay, let me get a different paper towel. The brush I'm going to use this time, this is a Low Cornell Crescent scruffy brush. This is a discontinued brush along with the curved flat brushes, two of my all-time favorite brushes. Now, Artist Club has some that are similar to these. I still have a few of, I think, a 1/4 inch and a 1/2 inch maybe on my website. I can't remember exactly what sizes I have, but I still have a few. So if you're wanting some of these brushes, now is the time to get it because they're discontinued and you can't get them anymore. Let me get some fresh white out here. And we're going to do the same thing. Dry brush, dry paper towel, load some up, kind of work it into your brush, and then remove most of the paint off. You still got a little bit in there, and we're going to come in here Gentle pressure. And brighten these highlights a little bit. Start out with gentle pressure because you don't know how much paint is going to come off, and you don't want to have too much come off at once. You'll leave a stark line if you do. We're just staying a V right where that, however wide your hump is here, that's how wide you want your dry brush to be. That's more paint, took too much off. Okay, that's pretty good for that. I'm going to lay this brush aside because I may use it again. I'm going to put, I think I'm going to put some lamp black out on my palette now. So I'm going to mix my green and my black and make kind of a black green. So I'm going to dip into my green. This is the leaf green that we basted. Kind of work that into my brush and get the teeny tiny little drop of black and mix that in. Another teeny tiny little drop. I touch it over there just in case I've got a lot, and that will remove some of it from my brush. I've got a lot of water here, so I'm just going to touch very easy to my paper towel, let some of that water come out. Okay, so these areas here are going to be shaded. Use your water edge to soften that out. Mix me a little bit more here. Get some water on my brush. Now remember, when you pick up water, I always pick it up on this side that doesn't have paint, and I blend it in my brush just like I would my paint. Generally, I pick up a little bit of paint and blend them together. Okay, let's go on the bottoms. Yeah, the bottoms of these. Forgot where I was at for a second there. I'm going to mix a little bit more paint here. And we'll add some depth to our wrinkles here. And on the side, a little bit of water. I'm using a pretty wide brush here. You could certainly go to a much narrower one. I'll have to redo that highlight probably. And here. Okay, and we also want to go, let me mix a little bit more. We also want to go along here. Soften it out a little bit. So this is where, if you've gotten your highlights here a little bit bigger than what you wanted, you can adjust right here with this. Like this one, I think is ginormous. More water, more paint. Mix as you go. That's a little bit too dark, so let me add some green to it. Okay, this one is just a scooch too wide, so let me make it a little bit smaller. I'm just using my finger to soften and pull that out. I want to shade underneath here. But before I do that, I want to bring this over just a little bit. Soften it out. I think we'll shade underneath with, we'll start out with some burnt umber. And we'll intensify the darker areas with either soft black or lamp black. So, burnt umber first. It's a pretty sheer brown. So we'll shade underneath the whole thing with burnt umber. We can come back and paint our letters back in if we need to. I'm just going to dirty brush right into some soft black. Go underneath here. I don't really like how those turned out. They got a little bit darker than what I wanted there. So I'm going to take some of my green and a dry brush. Oh, didn't want white in there. Get some fresh paint out. Don't really want the white in there. So let's try that again. The green, just the green that we basted in. Kind of drag that over. It's a little bit, just a scooch too dark for me. And I think with my highlight I need to go a different direction. So with this same brush, I'm just going to go into some white. Remember, I'm using this brush dry. And whoo, wipe some of that paint off. And I think we'll go this way. This is just a flat brush, but you can use whatever brush you were dry brushing with earlier. like a rustic piece here. Okay, I want to deepen underneath my little areas. So some soft black. You can add a little bit of lamp black in there if you want to. Right there. Just right there. You can really see how that is starting to give it more depth. I added a little bit of black in there. So that's the part that's going to be raised up a little bit. I'll put a little bit over here. And then I'm going to go back with our burnt umber. And maybe add a tiny little bit of soft black in there with that. Do the rest of it. Alright, that's starting to look a lot more raised up. Now, if we have a ribbon that comes across here, it's probably going to come across somewhere in here. So off of it, we'll have some pulled areas on both sides. And then I think up here on the top we might have a few little puckered areas. So we'll add those in there. So I'll go back to my small curved flat. And I'm going to do my white with a little bit of green in it this time. Just make a color that you like. Mostly white. You don't want a lot of green in there. So if you feel like you're picking up too much green, just go wipe your brush off on your paper towel and then go load some more white into your brush, because you'll probably have enough green in there. So let's see, I want this side. Ooh, baby. To be the highlight side. Maybe make a couple of these a little bit longer so they're not all the same. And then down here. Alright, I don't want to forget the ones at the top. My paint was getting a little too far over on my brush, so I washed it out. Mostly white with a little touch of green. And then we'll go into our green and black mixture, or soft black, either one. As long as you're making a dark green. And we'll go on the opposite side. So I missed a One there. A little bit of water in my brush. I'm doing this before we add the ribbon because it'll be kind of hard to keep it off of the ribbon once we add it on there. And I'm running out of paint on my brush too quickly. Need a little bit more water and quite a bit more paint. I'm kind of staying up on the toe. Oops. Just scooch more black here. I'm not really liking this one here, or this one. So I'm going to dampen those. Erase them. Paint hasn't cured, so we can get those off of there. Don't rub too hard, you'll take the paint off underneath. You don't want to do that. Okay, that looks much better. Alright, let's figure out what color we want to paint our ribbon, and once we shade on each side of the ribbon, it will look great. Now we want our ribbon to let's see, do we want it to have a bow or just a knot? Let's see. I think we'll just do a knot here. And we'll have it coming off of it like that. Just a piece of ribbon. So now to decide what color our ribbon should be, and I think it should be that mulberry color. Now we can use straight mulberry, or we can do like we did down here and add a little bit of tomato red with it. Oh goodness, get it open. So let me get a small round brush here. And just mix your colors however you like. If you want to be more on the purple side or more on the red side, there's no right or wrong. Just mix a color that you like. I think I'm going to go a little bit more on the purple side here. So I'm just brush mixing when I go over there, and that way, you know, just pick up a little bit here, a little bit there, mix it up. Okay, let's see how that looks. Hold it up because I have a tendency to get stuff a little crooked sometimes if I don't hold it up. Okay, so we're going to have a piece of it coming off over here. kind of curling down. And then a piece coming off over here. And a little knot right here. Alright, then you can, if you want it dries, if you feel like you need to add another coat on here, you can just go right ahead. Okay, let's drag some white, warm white on our ribbon. So I'm going to pick up a dry brush and kind of wipe off some of the paint. And we're just going to kind of drag this down the center here. And pick up and wipe off and drag, give it, you know, some places a little bit brighter than others. We want our knot to be a little bright on the top. And then this one comes over the top, this piece of ribbon, so we'll come down it, and this one comes underneath. So that is our ribbon for now. And then we're going to shade on these edges and around this knot and stuff with some soft black. Get some of the water out of my brush here. I got a little bit too much. Good. I'm going to go along these edges. And here. And go under here. This one will go next to the knot. Try and keep that round. And the knot here. And we'll do a little bit of shading on the bottom of the knot. And next to it here. Kind of make that one look like it's coming over the top there. Okay, I think I will go down this edge a bit, and this edge. Just a little bit of shading there. Now we need to go around the ribbon itself. I'm going to get a larger brush. And I'm going to go with the soft black. I'm going to add, I think I'm going to add a little bit of burnt umber to it. And we will go on this edge of it. Probably don't need to be quite as wide as what, or big as the brush that I have here. What size do I have? I have a 10, but that's about the right size. Don't put your paint too far over on your brush, and try and lay your brush flat, soft pressure. Go along the top as well. Around our knot here, a little bit more paint. And on that ribbon, get some more water. I want to repeat that and darken it up a little bit. top here. I think I'll add a little bit out here on these edges just to give it some roundness. Pick up a little bit more burnt umber so it won't be quite so dark. Brighten my highlight up just a little bit. So I'm going to take actually I think I'll take my liner brush and make it white this time. And drag that through there. This edge underneath here. Okay, now I said I was going to put a little bit of this green on there, so let's see. Of course, if you don't have the green, you don't have to worry about it. This is that media green. I want to put a little bit of it on our leaves. Perk them up a little bit. And then a little bit, just kind of wash some. Oops. Nice. If you were on camera, you'd probably like that, huh? Just a little bit. This is not going to take away from our highlights or anything. Just going to brighten that green up a little bit. And one last place I think that green needs to definitely be is on these leaves. Just put a little, now this is straight paint here. This is not watered down paint. This will be very fast because you're just really tapping a little bit on there. Brighten up those leaves. Okay, I think that project is going to be done. So let's wide angle out. And look how cute that jar of honey is. Oh my gosh, it turned out so cute. So cute. I love it. I love it with my bling, bling, bling on there. Oh my gosh. I love those bees. They were so much fun. You don't have to put the bling just on their wings. You can put it on their bodies too, but I just wanted their wings to be sparkly. Oh, how fun. How fun. Okay, well, I could just stare at this project all day. I just think it turned out gorgeous. And you'll want to add some wire up here, and you can, you know, kind of curly cue the wire through there, and or loop it this way and bring it around the back and loop it up at the top, on top of here, and bring it up. Either way would look cute as can be. Hang that on your front door for Valentine's Day for the month of February, and it will get the bees excited to come. I just think it turned out really, really cute. I hope that you enjoyed this project. I certainly enjoyed painting it with you. Oops, a little too close there. I really, really enjoyed this one. So thank you again for painting with me. I'll see you guys on the next one.